Good afternoon, everybody. I hope all of you had some time to review. Only yesterday we did, so we have to start again. There is no time in between, but it's all right. I'm sure that all of you can cope with this. Let us start. Yeah. See, so far I did not give a reference to what I was doing, but I did a lot of things which are not in this. But if you want to learn several variable calculus and you want to be confident, I suggest you read this article. Okay. And from tomorrow onwards, I think I may be using ideas from this article possibly. You can download it from the space. This, okay. There are about 240 articles of mine which are you can download. You can do the search. You can ask for several variable calculus. Then this article will appear. So 345. So let me try to stop at 445. So let us quickly recall what we did yesterday. I had a function f from subset. Okay. U in R2 to R and A is a point in U. I wanted to say F is differentiable at A.
The screen is not being shared.
Yes, you are right. I forgot. So you are all mute then. Huh? Look at this article I talked about. Anyway, I will be sending the PDF file, so there is no need for you to write down that. Okay, I'm going to recall our last definition yesterday. U is a subset of R2. Those who know something about like a third year student, open set, but don't worry about that. Okay, A is a point in U. I want to say F is differentiable at A. If what I want is there exists two constants C1 and C2 real numbers, and so that you give me any epsilon positive, I can find a delta positive, so that distance between xy and AB, if this is less than delta, I want to say the distance between f of xy minus f of AB minus C1 times the increment in the x variable minus C2 times the increment in the y variable. This should be less than epsilon times square root of a squared plus y squared. A squared plus y squared. Okay. This is our definition. Do all of you agree? This what I said as call it a polynomial pxy. This is the first degree polynomial. And what is P of AB? P of AB is f of
Sir,
AB. Yes.
on the right hand side, it would be under root of x minus a whole square plus y minus b whole square.
You are right.
Less than epsilon times.
You are right. Thank you. Thanks. I was thinking in terms of 0, 0, so I was right. You are right. Thank you. So, what is P of AB? If this is P of xy, P of AB will be, this is a constant here, x equal to A, therefore this is 0, this is 0. Therefore, it is f of AB. So, this is a polynomial of first degree in x minus A into y minus B. Right. Okay. That's what we said. This P of x f is approximated by a first degree polynomial by P. F is approximately equal to polynomial P. If you want variable, I will write it like this. For all xy, which are very near to AB. Okay, these are all qualitative. Quantitatively, I have to say, you give me an epsilon, then there is a delta, etc. Okay, this is our definition. So if I want to say differentiable at A, then there are lot of work for me to do. What is that? I have to first say there exists some constant C1 and C2. That's not enough. They have some property. What property? Once you give me C1, C2, I can form this polynomial P of xy. Okay, then I want to look at fx minus fxy minus P of xy. Then I want to say something about it. It goes to 0 faster than the distance between xy and AB goes to 0. That we formulated in terms of AB. See, whenever you come across a new definition, okay, you should try to formulate it in your own words, qualitatively, quantitatively, or looking at examples. Even if you are afraid you may be making mistake, it may not be correct, don't worry. Keep saying. It's like when you learn to bicycle, you are going to fall down, of course. Okay, that's part of learning. So you should never be afraid of this. Try to experiment, try to say it in your own words. Okay, it may or may not be correct, but slowly you will see your success rate will be very high. This is a minus sign. It looks like plus, but it is minus. Okay. Now, yesterday some student asked why I wanted to do this. I already explained. I wanted the first degree polynomial because if you look at P, I want a first degree polynomial in x and y. What does it mean? Let us assume the coordinates are x and y. Then first degree polynomial in x and y will be of this form. Some constant and c1 times x plus c2 times y. But I want is a first degree polynomial in the variable x minus a and y minus b here. But in general, first degree polynomial will be this. So can somebody tell me what will be the first degree polynomial on R3 with x, y, z coordinate? Quick.
C0 plus C1x plus C2y plus C3z.
Very good. Okay. Suppose at ABC in x minus a, x minus b, y minus b, c, z minus c, you know how to do that, right? I don't want to waste our time, so it's clear, right? So what we are doing is we are approximating first degree polynomial. Why we want to do that? Because the function f may be very complicated, but when I want to measure, okay, the function may be measuring something, okay, that may be very difficult for me to work with. So then what I do is I look for some easy number which is close to that, and I can work with that. This is what intuitively this is what it says. But I want to go to another thing now. Let us start with R3, right? So how many of you know what is meant by a plane passing through origin? All of you know that, right? Because whenever it comes to R3, students are always little silent. So it is given by the equation. Yes. What do you mean by it is given by the equation? See, plane is a subset of R3. Therefore, this plane P, call it P. This is no more a polynomial now, right? Okay. This plane P is a subset of R3. That is x, y, z in R3, so that ax plus by plus ez equal to 0. You understand? Suppose a equal to 1, b equal to 1, sorry, b equal to 0, c equal to 1. What does that mean? So you ask me whether this belongs to P. What do I have to check? A equal to 1, that is a times x will be 1, 2, and b times this is 0, and c this is 0. Therefore, 2 equal to 0, that's not true. You understand? Whereas if I put minus 2, that will be there. A times 2 and b is 0, 0 times 1, then c times 2 minus 2, therefore that's 0. You understand? So this is known as equation of a plane passing through origin. And I'm not very good at drawing picture, but let me try my hand. Okay, this is a picture. Okay. This is the plane. Okay, this is the XYZ axis. This is a plane which passes through the origin. Right? Now, what is the relation of ABC to the plane? Notice that since we want it to be a plane, we are assuming at least one of the coordinate ABC is not 0. Because if all are 0, then this will be all of R2. You don't want to call it a plane then. Sorry, it will be all of R3. Do you follow me? Yes? Please say yes if you follow me, because I should know where you have difficulty so that I can stop and explain further if necessary. Okay. Now, what is the geometric meaning of ABC? Obvious ABC geometrically related to P, the plane. Is there any relation? Does anybody know that?
So they are the dr's direction ratio of the plane.
Yeah, but there is a much better word. Have you heard this word?
Normal.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Because when you say direction ratio, sometimes you may insist a squared plus b squared plus c squared equal to 1, which I don't. You understand that? I do not know. I always call it a normal. Okay. It is perpendicular to the plane. Now, I just want to ask you different questions. I have point x naught, y naught, and z naught. Okay. This is a plane passing through origin. Okay. Now my point is somewhere here. I want a plane passing through this point, which is parallel to this plane. Call it P1. P1 should be parallel to P, and it should pass through this point, which is x naught, y naught, z naught. How do I get the equation of that plane?
So some multiple of the equation of plane like
Multiple will be the same. 2ax plus 2by plus 2zz will be the same plane. So first, let us go slow. That's why, see, you should, unfortunately, coordinate geometry 2-dimension, 3-dimension has become algebraic manipulation. The geometry take, okay, the last bench in the classroom. Okay, that's a problem. Now, if I want to say it's parallel, what all it means is the normal to this plane should be this whatever was the normal to this plane. Okay, this should also be the same normal. That means the normal should all again be ABC to this plane P1. Okay. Then how do I do that? But then it has to pass through the point x naught, y naught, z naught. Therefore, the equation of the plane must be ax plus by plus cz equal to some d. Okay. So what I'm doing, I'm simply, let me stop it and try to show. Now, can you see me? So this is a plane passing through origin. Okay, this is a point. Then what do? Is I simply translate it and let it pass through this. This is what I try to do. Are you able to see that? I would like to hear an answer. Are you able to see that?
Yes, sir.
No, sir. The screen is not visible.
Screen is not visible. Why? I do not know why. Because that means you have to put a speaker view. You may be in gallery view or something. Look at the speaker view, then you should be able to get.
Sir, we can see you, but not your screen.
You can see me, not the screen. That's very strange. I thought I was showing on the screen. If I see myself on the screen, I'm able to see that.
Yeah,
do you see this sheet of paper?
Yeah, sure.
And do you see this?
Yeah.
Yes, sir, we can see that.
Yeah. This is another plane parallel to that. That's what I'm saying. Right. So again, I don't want to spend time on three-dimensional geometry. Then calculus will be missing. Hey, what happened to my thing? Yeah, it's here. Okay. Okay. So in the ABC direction, I have to move it by some distance, namely by distance d. D may be positive, d may be negative, accordingly. So to make you understand, let us look at. Yeah, this is a good idea. So this is my XY plane, right? And this is what is a normal? This is a normal. Z,
You have to share your screen.
Yes, you are right. Thank you. Yeah, this is the XYZ plane. Sorry, XY plane. Okay, and this is my plane P, and this is the normal. Okay, this is the axis is the normal. In your usual vector algebra, you will denote by J and K, but in linear algebra, I will denote it by 1, 0, 0, 0, 1, 0, and 0, 0, 1. This I call it E1, this I will call it E2, this I will call it E3. Okay, so this fellow is going to be normal. So when I want this plane is given by the equation z equal to 0, the xy plane. You understand this? Now, when I say z equal to d, what does it mean? So in the normal direction, go d units. If d is positive, I go here. So it may be like this. If d is negative, it may be like this. It will be below. Are you following? So in the normal direction, you have to move d units. So here, this plane I want to pass through this. What all I have to look at is the distance between this point and this plane and move it. Okay. So how am I going to get it? And do not worry too much. Try to just follow me. After that, you can work with your algebraic, okay, manipulations. But geometries, you can do that. So the point x naught, y naught, z naught should lie in this plane. That means ax naught plus by naught plus cz naught must be equal to d. Now notice that I already know the plane ax plus by plus cz equal to 0. That is the plane passing through origin. I wanted a plane at x naught, y naught, z naught, which is parallel to that and parallel, okay, which passes through this point and parallel to this p. I know the equation is given by ax plus by plus cz equal to d. What is unknown to me is d, because you already told me the ax plus by plus cz equal to 0. This plane is already given to me. To decide this plane, what all I know I have to find is what is the value of d. That I found out now. Therefore, the equation of the plane which is parallel to p and passing through x naught, y naught, z naught is ax plus by plus cz equal to ax naught plus by naught plus cz naught. How many of you understand what I'm saying? If you don't understand, just now you have found a way. You give me equation of a plane passing through origin ax plus by plus cz equal to 0. I want a plane passing through x naught, y naught, z naught, which is parallel to the given plane. Then the equation of the required plane is ax plus by plus cz equal to ax naught plus by naught plus cz naught, which is same as saying a into x minus x naught plus b into y minus y naught plus c into z minus z naught is 0. Please say yes if you understand. This three-dimensional coordinate geometry. That's what I tried to put a little more geometry rather than algebra. Right? Now comes the next thing. So, do you remember? This is the digression. I am going back to differentiation now. Now let's look at one variable case from f from r to r, maybe some interval if you want. Then if I draw the plot of this, the graph of this, then start with the point a here, and this is a comma f a. Then what was f dash a? There was a geometric interpretation for that, is the slope of the tangent passing through the point a comma f a. You understood that? Now I am going to say this definition which I wrote down here gives an analog of this. What does it mean? I will explain. So my picture may not be very good, but you can imagine, but later I will try to show a picture if you want. So I have some domain, and this is the graph of this. What is the graph? X, y, f of x, y, where x, y lies here. Okay, this is the graph. Okay, you understand this? And start with the point a comma b here. Then this point will be a f a, sorry, a b f of a b. Okay, then what am I looking for? I am looking for a plane passing through this point a b f of a b, which is on the graph of the function, and I would like to call it as a tangent plane. So I am looking for a plane which approximates surface near the point ab, near the point ab f of ab. Is this Attempt clear. The goal is this clear? This is our goal. Is the goal clear? Just I will show you a picture. I just now closed it. Now, do you see this picture? Please say somebody. You know, when I ask questions,
Yes,
somebody has to say.
sir.
Yeah. No, please say in terms of symbols. That will be easier. You understand that? This is the graph of F. Then what I am looking at, this is the point A, comma, B, comma, F of AB. I am looking for this plane. This is the plane I am looking for. Okay. That's what I was trying to draw. It was. Now let's go back to. Now, therefore, I am looking for a plane which passes through the point AB, F of AB. You understand this? Now, let us look at how do you describe the graph of as a subset, graph of F as a subset of R3? This is by definition set of X, Y, F of XY. In R3, where is XY? XY is in the domain. Is that clear? Right. Therefore, I can write this graph as Z equal to F of XY. Because the Z coordinate is nothing other than F of XY. Do all of you understand this? Yes? Okay. So, at the point A, B, I have F of AB. So, what I want is, I want a plane passing through AB, F of AB. Therefore, I am looking for an equation of the form Z equal to alpha X plus beta Y. You understand? Any equation is given by Ax plus By plus Cz equal to some D. Make it 0 to start with if you want. Okay, or make it D. Then suppose C is not equal to 0, then I can write this as Z equal to D minus Ax minus By by C. Do you understand that? So I want to write this as Z equal to alpha X plus beta Y. Do all of you understand this? And plus a constant, because there is a constant also. Let us call it constant gamma, because there is a D. Are you following? Okay. Now this is the plane. I want to find the equation of the tangent plane. This should be passing through the point A, comma, B, comma, F of AB. What does that mean? The Z coordinate of this point must satisfy this equation. That means F of AB must be equal to alpha of X plus beta of Y plus gamma, when X equal to A and Y equal to B. Are you following me? This is your X, Y and Z. X, Y, Z coordinate must satisfy this equation. Z equal to F of AB and alpha A plus beta Y plus gamma must be equal to this. So this tells me what should be gamma. Gamma should be F of AB minus alpha A minus beta B. Do you understand this? Yeah. Therefore, substitute this. Therefore, the equation of the plane is alpha X, but there is alpha minus alpha A. Therefore, it's alpha X minus A. And beta Y, there is a minus beta B. Therefore, it is plus beta into Y minus B plus F of AB. I hope I'm writing it correctly. Do you understand this? This is the equation of the plane through A, B, F of AB. Now go back to this, our definition of derivative. Look at this. F of xy, that is your z, is equal to, forget this, look at only this part. This is F of AB minus alpha into x minus a minus beta into y minus b. You see that? That's the equation of the plane. How many of you understand? Okay. This is the equation of the plane minus f of ab, z equal to f of ab plus alpha times x minus a plus beta times y minus b. Therefore, my negative minus of that. Therefore, it is a problem. So, what I have found is I am approximating the graph by means of a plane. So, this is the tangent plane I am looking at. Take a break. I'll give about few seconds to catch up with me. You should tell me if you want me to move up or down of the screen. So graph is this, it's a subset. Therefore the graph is given by this equation, and I am looking for a tangent plane given by the equation z equal to alpha x plus beta y plus gamma. It should pass through the point AB, f of AB. Therefore I have to find, I am trying to find what is gamma. Substituting the value of this, I found the gamma should be this. Therefore, if there is a plane which passes through this point, okay, then the gamma, this must be this. Okay. So to say it's a tangent plane, what I need is I need to find alpha and beta, which I call as C1 and C2 here in the definition. And to say this is a tangent plane, what do I do? Let us look at the picture which I showed you earlier. Share it. Right? So on the surface, which is below the tangent plane, move around this point below the tangent on the surface, then the distance between the point on the surface on the graph and this tangent plane will be negligible. The error is very small and we have control over that error. That's what differentiability definition tells us. So how many of you have some reasonable understanding now? Please say yes if you have some kind of an idea. Shweta, is there any flickering?
No, sir.
Okay, good. Okay, this so what we have done, differentiability, we had defined already in analogous way as in the one variable case. That is the I say it's differentiable. It can be approximated by a first degree polynomial, and the error goes to 0 much faster than the increment going to 0. Second thing, I can approximate the graph in and around the given point AB by means of a plane, because this is the equation of a plane. This plane is what I am going to call tangent plane. Okay, and how much they are close, that is what is given by this quantitative thing. Okay, and there is another thing which you will come across perhaps tomorrow, but let's move on to play with this notion. What I want to do is I'm going to look at a function f. We had already done that, R2 to R2. Okay, and what do I want? The function is, we have seen it already, x times y, and fix a point a comma b in R2. I want to know whether f is differentiability.
Sir, R2
Yes.
to R2.
R2 to R. Okay, whether f is differentiable at AB. right? Now, if I want to say f is differential with AB, what are the things? There is a hell of a lot of things I have to do. Okay, I have to find C1 and C2. Then for every epsilon you give me, I have to choose a delta and then do these things, right? You had already seen me 3 days in action. Do you think I'm going to do that? No, I'm not going to do that. I will do it my way. What I will do is, see, I have to approximate f of xy if x and y are near. Okay, I have to estimate this. I have to find x and y minus f of a and simplify this and tries to estimate. Okay, this all I will do. Then I want a first degree polynomial in what? In x minus a and y minus b. So I will collect it. You see that? You are discovering. Whereas if I want to show it's differentiable according to the definition, I have to tell you take c equal to this, c2 equal to this. Then I have to give me an epsilon. I will produce a delta. That's a verification. You understand that? I don't want to be an accountant. I want to be a wealth creator. Okay. So what is f this? So let us write x equal to a plus h and y equal to b plus k. All right. Then this is what is f of xy? A plus h into b plus k minus ab. This is ab plus ak plus bh minus hk minus ab. This is ak plus bh minus hk. You understood this? What I did was pure algebra. There is nothing. Now comes the thing. What do I know? I want first degree polynomial in what? X minus a. What is x minus a? H. And y minus b. What is y minus b? K. So I am looking for a first degree polynomial. Okay. That will give me what is C1 and C2. Then I have to show it can be less than epsilon times something. Are you following me? Please pay attention. I want one student to come up with an answer. What should be my C1? What should be my C2? What should be the polynomial hk? Please pay attention. My polynomial I had already written. I want some student to come up with an answer. You see that you are discovering. I am not saying take this. Okay. Try. Don't just say that you don't want to understand. Look at this. C1 times h, C2 times k. What are the first degree terms in this, in hk?
AK plus BH.
Speak louder, please.
AK plus BH.
AK plus BH is correct. But then what is my C1?
A.
No, no.
Sorry, H, B.
Yes.
B.
C1 is V
And
C2 is
K.
Therefore, it is BH plus AK. That's my first degree. Because H and K, there are two. Therefore, it's second degree. Do you understand that?
Yes, sir.
In H, it's first degree. K is 1 degree. But then the product will be 2 degree. Okay, degree will be 2. You follow that? Therefore, what is my C1? B. What is my C2? A. Therefore, what am I supposed to show? F of A plus H, B plus K minus F of AB minus BH minus AK. If I do that, what I am left with? I am left with HK. Do all of you agree with that? Go back. F of XY minus F of AB is this. And this is my first degree polynomial. Therefore, if I subtract that also, what I am left with is HK. What am I supposed to show? I want to know whether this is less than or equal to epsilon into h squared plus k squared. Yeah. But remember, yesterday I already observed mod h is less than or equal to this object. Similarly, mod k is also less than or equal to this number. This is equal to mod h into mod k. Therefore, this is less than or equal to square root of h squared plus k squared into square root of h squared plus k squared. Therefore, it is h squared plus k squared. Are you following? Yes. Therefore, f of a plus h, b plus k minus f of ab minus bh minus ak by square root of h squared plus k squared will be square root of h squared plus k squared.
Sir, it is flickering now a little bit.
Yes, that's
The
what I want
left
to know.
side of this, the
Sure,
line
the-
is flickering.
No, okay. Now does it flicker? Just tell me. So this goes to 0 now, as h go to 0. So we have proved the function is differentiable. We also found out what is C1 and C2. So, are you following?
Sir, can you repeat how do we get HK at the last by solving the...
Yeah, right. What happened to my thing? Yeah. Say f of AH BK, this is how you did that, okay? Minus f of AB. This is what I'm looking at. F of XY minus f of AB. X is A plus H, Y is B plus K. Therefore, f of XY will be A plus H into B plus K minus AB. So after simplification, what do I get? AK plus BH minus HK. Okay, plus HK, sorry. Because this is a plus here. Okay, you understood that? So I am looking for the first degree polynomial in H and K. Therefore, first degree polynomial is this object which I wrote. Therefore, my C1 will be B, C2 will be A. That's correct. Then let's look at, therefore, this is a first degree polynomial. I want to subtract B of HK. Suppose I subtract that, that means I'm subtracting AK minus BH. I'm subtracting. So what I'm left with? The error is going to be simply HK. Are you following me?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Yeah? After this is clear?
Yes, sir.
Very good. So this error goes to 0 faster than HK going to 0. Therefore, it's a differentiable. And I found out what is C1 and C2. Okay. I just wanted to do this because this is not, you will not be doing because I know what you would have done, but I wanted to do it slightly differently. Now I have another, I think we started around 45, so I have another 22 minutes. So now I can go to this. Is this clear to you? Okay. Let us do one more very trivial exercise. I have slightly more difficult, not difficult, easy exercise, but let me do a simple exercise. Suppose f is R2 to R. Now f of xy is x plus y. Do you see that I'm looking always at simple functions? This is one thing you have to learn. When you are learning some new subject, look at very simple example which give you, which are easy to work with, which also give insight. If you look at very complicated example, the example will be complicated, so you will be immersed in the complication. You will lose the ideas. What English people will say, you will miss the wood for the trees. So I want to know whether f is differentiable at AB. Therefore, let me look at f of xy minus f of AB. That will be x minus a plus y minus b. That is x plus y minus a plus a minus a minus b. I am writing this. So what do I want? I want the first degree polynomial in x minus a and y minus b. You can see that it's served on a silver platter to me. Okay. If you call it x equal to a plus h, y equal to b plus k, this is your h plus k. You understand that? Therefore, what is my first degree polynomial? I'll take it h plus k itself, right? Now, what is f of xy minus f of ab minus the first degree polynomial p of hk? It is 0, right? Therefore, I don't have to worry about epsilon, delta, anything. Do all of you understand?
Yeah.
and my C1 is 1 because C1 times H plus C2 times. Okay, therefore C2 is also 1. How many of you understood this? I went a little fast, but you can always review it in your thing. Okay. So if you want, you can also do another simple exercise, but don't do it in the discussion hour. Go through the first two examples from R2 to R. I'll make it very simple. F of xy equal to x squared plus xy squared. And fix a point AB. Okay, show that it's differentiable and tell me what is C1 and C2. Is the question clear? Show that f is differential at the point AB, then you have to tell me what is A and B. Don't worry about epsilon and delta. I don't want you to prove that. It is easy, but I don't want you to spend time on that because many of you may still be afraid of that kind of thing. So don't worry. But try to create, try to discover. It is differentiable. You know how to find C1, C2. What do you have to do? Write x equal to A plus H, y equal to B plus K, and then substitute this and simplify. Look at only the first degree terms in H and K. Then you would have found out. Okay, that's very easy. It's pure algebra, 8th standard algebra. Okay, please do that. Okay, this is homework, not for breakout room. Okay, now let's come back. So I found out C1 and C2. Now what I want to do, suppose F is differentiable. Okay, that means there exists C1 and C2 such that this happens. Are you able to see the screen? Okay, suppose F is differentiable at AB, that means there exists C1 and C2. This must be true. Okay, now what my question is, somebody had told me F is differential at F is differential at AB. Okay, that means he has his own C1 and C2. Now just because of the fact you told me F is differentiable at AB, okay, let us say one of your teachers have told you. Okay, now you take it for granted. You trust the teacher, but you are curious. I want to find out what is C1 and C2. So the teacher said F is differential at A and B, but I want to find what should be C2 because the teacher refused to tell me C1, C2. But she told me it is differential at AB. Is the question clear to you? Now I want to find out C1, C2. You see that? It's a game. If you enjoy doing game, then you will like it. But if you think of mathematics as a ritual, then it's boring. So let us assume F is differentiable. Oh, let me change the color. At AB. Okay. How to find C1, C2 of the definition. Right? Now what are C1, C2? They are the coefficients of the first degree polynomial. C1 x minus A plus C2 y minus B. Is that clear? Or C1H plus C2K. Now ask yourself a question. Okay, how will I find? So you tell me this is a polynomial HK. Then I want to find C1 and C2. How do you think I will do that? If you want a puzzle, what do you do? If you can't solve it, you ask for a hint. Right? Okay, I can't solve it. But at least tell me the value of P at this point and at this point. Then I know how to find C1, C2. Do you understand this? See, begin to think. It's a game. Unfortunately, maths is taught like a religion. Okay? Like a ritual. Follow this, you get a proof. That's accountant job. Are you following me what I'm saying? You told me the polynomial, but I want to say C1, C2. I can't guess it. Just like that a polynomial, I can't guess. But I'm asking you, tell me the value of P at some point. Give me the value of P at another point. Then I can tell you C1, C2. Can you guess what points I will choose now? Quick.
Sir, 0, 1, 1, 0.
Exactly. Take 1, 0.
and 0.
Okay. H equal to 1, K equal to 0. Then I found out C1. And now he tells me the value of P at 0, 1. Then I found C2. Do you understand this? Okay. Now let's go back. Now, how do I use it here? Yeah. So think it slightly differently. If you had told me this value of 1, 0, then C2 is going to be 0, right? Yeah. So I would like to make C2 0. What will I do to make this second term 0 now? I do not know how to make C2 0, but I can make C2 times y minus b 0. How will I make it?
Y equal to B.
That's it. Now suppose I take y equal to b, then for all points f of x comma b, you understand that? So that x comma b and a comma b are at a distance delta at most. Then this result still be true. Please think. Okay, maths is fun if you begin to think. Okay, classroom is not for notes taking. You follow what I'm saying? I want to make this fellow 0. I do not know how to make C2 0, but I can make y minus b 0. That means take y equal to b. Then what I know is the following. Take the point x comma b, so that which is delta close to a comma b. That means mod x minus a must be less than delta. That's all I need. Then what should I have? F of xb minus f of ab minus c1 times x minus a minus c2 times y minus b, that is b minus b. This is 0. You understand that? This should be less than epsilon times x minus a whole squared plus y minus b whole squared, but it is 0. Therefore, it is epsilon times mod x minus a. How many of you understand what I have written? Please say yes, quick. Now the fun starts. Now what will I do? I take x minus a to the left side. Therefore, what I have is f of xb minus f of ab by x minus a minus c1 is less than epsilon whenever 0 less than mod x minus a less than delta. Do you get this? Please say yes if you get it. Quick. Drishti, do you want to ask your question? Otherwise, lower your hand.
No, sir, it was by mistake.
Okay. Now, this is another Eureka movement. What is the Eureka here?
Sir, limit at x tends to e.
Yeah, what does it say about C1? You, all of you know that word. Huh?
Limit is C1.
That's correct. Apart from that,
It is the first order derivative.
it's a first partial derivative, right?
With
It's a
respect to
partial
x.
derivative of f in the variable x at the point a comma b. Do you understand this?
Hmm.
How many of you understand? So please clear your yes to start with. All of you please clear. No, don't answer. Please clear your yes. Yeah, now fresh. How many of you understand what I said? This shows that C1 must be the first partial derivative of f, that is partial derivative with respect to x in at the point a comma b. You see that? If you are ready to think, you discover mathematics on your own. You don't need a teacher, you don't need a book. But we need a teacher and book because we can learn faster. Because learning like this may take a lot of time. But on the other hand, it makes you how to think. That's more important. Knowing facts is not important. As Einstein said, Nowadays Google is there. Okay, I can ask for anything, I will get the answer. So why should I remember? But critical thinking, I have to do. Do you understand this? Let me formulate or conclude what I have found. If you tell me f is differentiable at ab, then I have a first degree polynomial c1 times x minus a plus c2 times y minus b, or c1 times h plus c2 times k. Then I know what is c1. What is c1? It is the first. Let me use the notation. I'll define it for those. I'm sure all of you know this. In case you don't know this symbol, I'll come to that. Okay. So there is some dividend here. What is the dividend? I assumed f is differentiable at ab. Then what I said is the partial derivative of f with respect to the x variable at the point ab exists. And it is the coefficient of the first variable in the approximating polynomial. You see that I'm looking at two sides of the same coin. One is I wanted to know what is C1. I found out C1. Second, I'm looking at the other side. If you say f is differentiable at AB, then this exists. If it exists, then I would like to know what it is. It is nothing other than the coefficient of the first variable. In where? In the approximating polynomial. So whenever such a result is there, always look at the other side also. Many times people don't realize that. There are two sides of the coin. It's not a Cholet coin. How many of you know the Cholet coin? I'm sure all of you know. Okay. So let us take a brief digression now. Suppose f is a function from R2 or some subset of R2 to R and fix a point AB in the domain of f. Then what do I do is I look at the function g of x to be f of x comma b. This is freezing. This is what is known as fixing the second variable. Namely, say fixing the y variable. Or if you want to sound somewhat cool, you should say I am freezing the second variable. Okay, second variable is not. As I said, the price of commodity may be a function of so many variables, right? Suppose this is the dollar price. Let me assume the dollar exchange rate is fixed for the next 10 years. Then it will be a function of only other variables. You understand that? That's what I'm doing. So for example, if f of xy equal to xy, what is my g of x at the point AB? What will be? Y is b, therefore it is nothing other than bx. Do you understand this? And similarly, I can define this other variable, h of y, to be f of a comma y. That is, fix the first variable, allow the second variable to vary. Okay. Then what do I have done? What I have done? Then I have found a one variable function x going to g of x, which is f of xb. So I want to know whether this is differentiable. At what point? At the point A. So how do I compute the derivative? The derivative will be g of a plus h minus g of a by h as limit h goes to 0. But what is g of a plus h? That is f of a plus h b minus f of a comma b by h. If you want, you can write it as x and then x going to a. Then this is x minus a. You follow that? If the limit exists, then you call it the first partial derivative. If the limit exists, then we call it first partial derivative of f at the point a comma b. Notice that a and b both are involved. It is not at a only. Okay. Or you can also partial derivative of f at ab with respect to x variable. So how will I define second partial derivative? I look at limit k going to 0 of f of, how will I do that? A y plus k minus f of, sorry, b, a b by k. Then if the limit exists, I call it the second partial derivative of f at the point a b, or partial derivative of f at the point a b with respect to the variable y. You follow that? So what we have shown so far, okay, let me just pause, review. How many of you understood what I said so far? I'm sure all of you have seen it already, so you should have found it easy. Good. So let me summarize what we did today. After that, if there is some time, I will say something. Otherwise, I will stop for today's lecture. Okay. So what you have done today, we reviewed the definition of differentiability of a function f defined on some subset of R2 to R at the point AB. Then we set our definition. We gave a geometric interpretation. Hey, what is happening? Geometric interpretation. That is what I wrote, f of AB plus C1 times x minus a plus C2 times y minus b defines equation, is the equation of a plane which approximate the graph f z equal to f of xy around the point AB. That is the geometric interpretation. The other interpretation which we started earlier and again explained today is, I say f is differential of AB if I can find a first degree polynomial in x minus a and y minus b, and so that it approximates the function f of xy in and around the point AB. And in each of the things, we are able to approximate how much error we are making. Is that clear? Okay. And second thing what we did, was, if f is differentiable at AB, okay, then there are two constants C1 and C2. After that, we played with epsilon delta. So I want to know how to find C1 C2. If I know f is differentiable, how do I find C1 C2? What it told me was, C1 I can find out easily. How did I do that? If f is differentiable, then dou f by dou x, that is the first partial derivative at this exists, and that is C1, and dou f by dou y or del f by del y at the point AB exists, and that is your C2. As I said, there are two sides of the coin. C1 I know its first partial derivative, and C2 is the second partial derivative. Conversely, if f is differentiable, I am asserting the function has partial derivatives at the point AB. So, okay, these are the things which you have seen today. And this is a lot. Usually, this is what you do in the very first lecture of your differentiation class of two variables. It took us 4 days to come out to that, because this year, given the time constraint and the volume of the syllabus, okay, teachers like us cannot spend a lot of time in the classroom on this. Then I have to finish 500 pages in the 30 lectures. Okay. So how many of you understand? Please say yes. I think it's better that I stop here and I'll go to a different plane or gear next tomorrow. Not tomorrow, next lecture. Now, did you see that? In your definition, I'm sure you would have come up with partial derivatives and then said that. But here, we defined it and then arrived at the partial derivatives. Okay, we will look at it little more in a different perspective tomorrow. Okay, I'll stop sharing. Yeah.
Okay. Sir, if we just focus on these two words, tangent lines in R2, then what do we mean by a tangent line? I mean, what is the definition of a tangent line?
See, the unfortunate thing is, I want to do all those things, but I have only 2 lectures. The first thing is how to define a line in R2, R3, or more generally even in Rn. Okay. Then let's go slow. How do I define a line? How many data I need? I need 2 data.
Points.
Right, 2 points or a point on the line and the
Point
slope
and the
in the
slope
case
of
of
the
2
Slope,
variables.
yeah.
But in the R3, what I need is the direction in which it has to move. I have a point. Can all of you see me? Okay.
Yes,
I have
sir.
a point. After that, you have to tell me in which direction I have to move. Then I get a line. So either of the 2 data will be enough for me. Either you give me 2 points, distinct points on the line, then I can determine the line. Or you give me a point on the line and the direction in which the line has to move. Okay, then I know. Okay. So interestingly, except in my linear algebra book, no book deals with this. People always talk about line segment, etc. Okay, it becomes algebraic manipulation rather than something. Okay. So we can do that, but let me just I will just share the screen. I will explain that. Now that you asked, because in the regular thing, I may not have time to get into this. So now that you asked, okay, you got it. So let me explain that. Okay. So now suppose you have an R2 or R3 or Rn more generally. Okay. N, but for your convenience, you can take 2 or 3. Take 2 points. Let me call it x1 to xn. Maybe it's instead of xyz, I'm writing x1, x2, x3. Another one y1, y2, y3. If you want n equal to. In 2 variables, you will write it as x1, y1, x2, y2. In 3 variable, you will write it x1, y1, z1, x2, y2, z2. But I am writing the n variable. Now I want to say the line joining this. Okay, I want to give. So what I do is you fix a vector v, and let us say the direction is, call it z1 to zn. Then a line passing through x1, x2, xn, okay, is given by x1, x2, xn plus t times z1 to zn. Okay, as t varies over real numbers. This is the line. Okay, this looks abstract, but I will go slow and I will do that. Now let's look at x1, y1 and x2, y2. Okay, let me write them in u1, u2. This is my direction v, right? Then the line passing through that for me is x1, y1 plus t times u1, u2. But what is that? That is x1 plus tu. Maybe I can also use it u1, u2. Yeah, u1, u2. And y1. Oh, I used uv. And let me, sorry, uv is the direction. So x1, y1 plus t times uv. So this is going to be x1 plus tu, y1 plus tv. Is that okay? Right. Now I want to say a line, a point xy lies on this line. What does that mean? That means there is a t so that my point xy is x1, y1 plus t times uv. That means this object. That means x must be equal to x1 tu and y must be equal to y1 plus tv. X1 plus tv, right? y1 plus tv. Is that clear? For some unique t. Now I can solve for t. What is this t? The t is going to be x minus x1 by u. But the same t is also equal to y minus y1 by v. Now do you see that? If it is a 3 variable, you would have written is z minus z1 by some other w. These are known as direction cosines of a line defining in R3. Whereas in R2, I stop here. You understand? Then u and v are the directions. Am I making myself clear? I think in R3 you call it direction cosines or something. One of the students also used some word. I don't remember that word.
Yes, sir.
What is that?
Issues.
Yeah?
Direction ratios.
Direction ratios. Okay, good. Okay, that's the word I wanted. Okay. Because I always think in terms of vector space and geometry, so that it's easier for me. You understood that? If it is x, y, z, then I will be x1, y1, z1 plus t times some u1, u2, u3 or u, v, w. Then solve it. Then I have x minus x1 by u equal to y minus y1 by v equal to z minus z1. See, this is the equation of a line passing through x1, y1. This is y minus y1. X1, y1, z1 with the direction ratios u, v, w. Do you understand? This is what you learn in R3. Now let me ask the question. If you have given me 2 points x1, y1, z1 and x2, y2, z2, okay, what is the line joining these 2 points? So I have this point x1, y1, z1 and this is another point, the line joining this. So you can see it has to move in this direction or it can move also in this direction. It matters. Either I travel from x1, y1, z1 to x2, y2, z2 or backwards, right? Therefore, the direction you can see is going to be the difference. That is my x1, y1, z1. My directions d1, d2, d3 is going to be x2 minus x1, y2 minus y1, z2 minus z1. That is the difference of these two vectors. Plus t times x2 minus x1, y2 minus y1, z2 minus z1. Do you understand this? This is x2, y2, z2. I am going to move from this direction as t varies over r. Now t equal to 0, I get x1, y1, z1. Do you understand that? At t equal to 0, I get this point. And t equal to 1, you see that x1, here it is x2 plus minus x1. Therefore, I get x2. y1, t equal to 1. Therefore, y2 minus y1, I will get y2. Therefore, at t equal to 1, I am going to get the point x2, y2, z2. Therefore, as I move along in positive time, positive direction, I start with x1, y1, z1. I move to x2, y2, z2. And therefore, this is a line passing through these 2 points. Right? Now that immediately tells you how to find the equation. Suppose the point x, y, z lies on this line. That means x must be equal to x1 plus t times x2 minus x1, etc. Therefore, you will find the equation going to be x minus x1 by x2 minus x1. If you want, I can write it x1 minus x2 also. Okay, equal to y minus y1 because everything will be negative though. y1 minus y2, z minus z1 by z1 minus z2. Now this is the equation of line passing through 2 points x1, y1, z1, x2, y2, z2. Is that clear? Now, therefore, what we have to do is the tangent line of which curve? This you might have done in your several variable calculus in the beginning. I do not know, but suppose C is a curve. Okay, C is a curve, some interval AB to R3. Then I can write C of t must be a vector in a point in R3. Therefore, I can write it as x, y, and z. But the x coordinate will be a function of t. Therefore, I can write it x of t, y of t, z of t. Therefore, the tangent vector, the velocity vector, physicists will think of it like this. AB is the time interval. At time A, it is at the point x at A, y at B, y at A, z at A. This is at the point C of A. and this is at C of B. So the particle may move like this. At this may be at the point C of B. Okay, this is a particle movement. Therefore, what is the velocity vector of this movement? That is given by x prime t, y prime t, z prime t. Okay. So this is the tangent vector. Therefore, at this point, I want the tangent line. So what do I need? I already know a point. I also know the direction in which I have to move. Therefore, this will be my tangent line. That is how a tangent line is defined. I went little fast, but you can, the video will be available. You can again play it back. And also you can read my book on linear algebra. Will tell you how to do that. Oh, something is, hey, what is wrong? Why it takes a lot of time? Okay. So you can read my book on linear algebra, and also there is a book on geometry by me and Santanam. I would explain these things there. But tomorrow we will have a short introduction to this in the next lecture, because I am going to tell you how to get to, we are on the tangent plane. We are going to, it's going to be a plane which passes through two tangent lines on the graph surface. I will explain that tomorrow.
Sir, so basically that curve should be a function. I mean, we cannot talk of any arbitrary curve and then talk of tangent on it. I mean, the things should be well defined.
Right. See, curve is not a subset. You understand that?
Yeah.
The image of a curve is a subset. Like a circle is it's not a subset for me. Circle is a curve. Okay. It is going to be something like a plus cos r cos t, comma b plus r sin t. It is a center at a, radius r, a b and radius r.
Yeah.
So a curve by definition is a function from an interval in R to some vector space R, R1, R2, R3, Rn, or whatever you want.
Okay.
Its image is different. Because if I take this, let us look at these are the things which you takes.
Yeah, I got confused. Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, good. Thank you very much. So are there any questions? Let us go back. How many of you just tried to figure it out? See, two things. In breakout rooms, you should not wait for a teacher. Teachers, if you remember the etiquette PDF file which I sent, they are initiators only for first 2 days. What is expected of you is any one of those 14, 15 who are present in the breakout room should voice their doubt. Okay, I have problem with this, I have doubt here, can somebody explain to me? That's how you should start. So it should be kind of meeting discussion among the students. Okay, if and only if you can't resolve it, you should approach a teacher. But I find in one room 14 or 15 students were just waiting for a teacher. Okay, and second, I want you to think more. It's not just like that, it's many time what we do, whatever is expected we do, nothing more. Okay, and if you want to succeed in life, forget about mathematics, anything, you should go an extra mile. That's a word. One extra mile meaning what is expected of you, you do that, and perhaps much more than that. I might ask a question, how many of you figured it out? I computed the derivative of f of xy equal to x times y at the point AB. Then I found my C1 to be B and C2 to be A, right? Later, I also said the C1, I know what it is. It is the first partial derivative of the function with respect to the x variable evaluated at the point AB. Therefore, f of xy equal to xy, the first partial derivative will be y. evaluated at the point AB will be B. It tallies. How many of you ever figured it out and checked it? Please say yes. I would like to know whether anybody paid that kind of attention. Nobody.
Sir, can you repeat the question?
Well, so you should pay more attention then.
Sir, I lost my connection for a bit, so I couldn't hear you.
I think that's a wonderful excuse on these things, right? I'm joking. Do not get offended. I'm just joking. Okay. So, do you remember? I said here for this function, we found out. Okay, let me just go ahead. It will be easier for me to do it here. Yeah. So, for the function f of xy, or something is wrong. There is a time delay. So we found out the C1 was B at the point AB. It's differentiable. And therefore there is a first degree polynomial. And then I found out C1 equal to B and C2 equal to A, right? This is what we did in the first part of the day in the lecture. And second lecture, I said this is del F by del X at the point AB. For this function, what is del F by del X? It is Y. Therefore, at the point AB, what it is? It is B. Okay. So this I did, but did you connect these two things is what I'm asking. Right? This is a result which you proved. Okay. And similarly, this is a result I proved. Dou F by dou Y at AB is C2. Okay, this is towards the end of the lecture. In the beginning of the lecture, I did this. Did you observe? That's what we got. So without doing lot of computation which I did to arrive at this, I could have used partial derivatives to quickly write down what should be my C1 and C2. Do you understand this? So my question is, was there anybody who wanted to check? C1, you have another formula. Therefore, for this particular function, I already found C1. Do I get it correct? This kind of curiosity should be there. If you want to be a science student, you have to be curious. Okay? You should try to relate something what you have seen earlier and what we are seeing today. That's what I wanted. Is that question understood now?
Yes, yes. Sir.
Was there anybody who had done that? Please come online, tell me. Yes? Manjari, did you do that? You are a teacher, right? And Sunila Sharma, so 2 teachers did that. But then you as teachers would have defined using partial derivatives the notion of differentiability, right?
Yeah, yeah.
You would have said dou F by, right, del F by del X at AB minus del F by del X at AB, X minus A, etc. That would have been your definition, not C1 and C2. So
No,
that's not a
yeah.
surprise for you.
No, but that C1, C2 explanation was very good.
And also you
Because
saw how the way I
In
arrived
this
at.
Yeah.
way,
Yeah, that explanation was good. Because we don't do it like that.
Yeah.
we define
See,
partial
the point is
derivative
mine is
and then become-
a sense of discovery, like a child.
Yeah.
I tried to explore
Yeah,
and
the
try
way
to find out.
C1 and C2 were obtained, that was very good.
Okay, are there any other questions? Otherwise, I think students had a long day. They should leave.
Sir, Kritika wanted to ask. She messaged me privately that she wants to ask.
Okay, I will be there.
Kritika, you are there?
Yes, ma'am. Sir, there was one question. Sir, in the concept which we did in the last class, like limit x was tending to 0, f of x upon g of x, and we said that f was approaching to 0 faster than g of x. So, sir, I couldn't get the meaning of this statement properly. Like faster than
See,
g.
that means you always want to memorize the definition, right? You should notice I started looking at example, then only I came to the definition. Let us look at the function. Okay, if you are a sequence 1 upon n and 1 upon n squared, that's what I started. Both go to 0. But which do you think go to 0 faster?
So 1
Do you
by
have a
n
feeling for
square.
that or you don't have a feeling?
So 1 by n square will approach faster.
Why do you think so?
So because it will be in the vicinity of 0. Like it
What do
will
you mean
be
by that?
very much closer.
Both are in the vicinity of 0. They are going to 0, right? See, if suppose it has to be in the vicinity of, let us say, 1 by 99, for the second series 1 by n squared, when n equal to 10, after that everybody is in the vicinity of 0. You understand? 1 by 99. You
Yes,
follow
sir.
that? Minus 1 by 99 to plus 1 by 99. If I take that interval, by n equal to 10 onwards, second series will live there. Whereas first series, it has to go up to 100th term. Do you understand that?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So that is why. So it has to work harder to reach that. Whereas this fellow goes faster. Okay. Similarly, the function f of x equal to x and f of x equal to x squared. Okay. I don't want to stop time for that. Okay. So the second thing, x squared goes to 0 faster. Very good. That's also granted. The third thing is, this is qualitatively I understand. If you give a function, somehow I seem to know which goes to 0 faster. For example, if I take 1 by x power n, okay, for x positive, and e power minus x for x positive, which goes to 0 faster? If I plot the graph of e power minus x, you will see e power x goes to 0 faster, e power minus x goes to 0 faster, right? It's all fine. Now, this is qualitative, but I have to verify. So I want to make a definition, quantitative. So what we do is, let us look at 1 by n and 1 by n squared. When I want to say 1 by n squared goes to 0, if I put 1 by n squared in the numerator and divide it by 1 by n, that is keeping 1 by n in the denominator, that limit should be 0. Do you understand? 1 by n squared and n by 1. Therefore, 1 by n, that goes to 0. Similarly, if I look at e power minus x and x power n, let me just share it. So I have e power minus x, I think, and x power n. I want to say this goes to 0, but as x goes to 0, I want to say this is 0. E power minus x goes to 0 first. How will I know? I will use L'Hopital's rule. I keep on differentiating n times. This will give me minus 1 to the power e power minus x, or whatever it is. This will give me just n factorial, and limit x goes to 0. Therefore, this goes to 0. You understand that? So, based on these examples, now I want to say, make a general definition. This is now a definition. This is not a theorem. You understand? I say f goes to 0 faster than g going to 0 if limit f by g is 0 at whatever point you are taking. So this is now a definition. How did I arrive at the definition? By looking at some examples. So I wanted to make sure. So whichever goes to 0, if I put it above, okay, I should go. Otherwise, what will happen? E power minus x will also be 0. X power n will also be 0. It will be 0 by 0 form. That is why L'Hopital's rule is important. Okay, please go,
Yes.
take time. Notice
Okay,
that
sir.
this is just a definition. How did I arrive at a definition? By looking at examples. Any definition is always looking at some examples. Okay, if you are a final year student, you would already started learning group theory. So why did I define groups like that? That's because I have certain examples which I looked at and appropriated or abstracted those properties and made it a definition. And similarly, we are making a definition.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay, good. Anything else?
Anyone wants to ask anything?
Okay, I think students may leave.